Hey, we live. I don't know. I really didn't have like a better intro than that.
Hey, we live. Okay.
Hey, we live.
Hey, we live.
Hey, we live. So, hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Philip Wilkerson, host of Positive Filter, and we are back, or we are live for a live episode of the podcast. Now, as you know, I've connected with many brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha throughout my time in this great fraternity, but I also found a community of special brothers that are doing things in the podcast world. And I was like, you know what? Why don't we join together, collaborate, and share our voices in one platform on one stage and just share how we use this as a way to get our message out, to connect with people, and really take a hold of the airways, as they say. And so going into it, I'd like to give everyone an opportunity to introduce themselves. I try to be organized, and so I have some slides. And when you see these slides, which I would say you can't, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, which I release later, you will not be able to see the good-looking guys that we got here today. But if you are watching live, you'll see their graphic. You'll see a QR code, which I would like you to, click on those links and really follow their show. And I want to give everyone an opportunity as I go through it and let them introduce themselves, just their name. Hey, what up? It's one of your frat, or it's our frat, but one of your people, Mike. I want to give everyone an opportunity to say what their show is about, when they became a member of Alpha, and just a brief synopsis of their show. So let me see if this works. It might have a little technical difficulties, but we'll see how that goes. So application window. Oops. Let me do this. And so as we go, I'm going to do file. What's it? And let me and we'll see if this. Trying to get this to work. Oh my. Well, let me see. There we go. There we go. So obviously you can see there. This is our show.
You're showing off now.
I tried to edit. It's called PowerPoint.
You saw he had this. You shot it like so that he knew what he was doing.
I tried to. You saw that. I might have to edit.
Let me see if this works. I don't know. Boom. Okay,
all right. So obviously you're listening to Positive Filter. I crossed I crossed Theta Rho Lambda, Fall 17. And I'm just, really proud to be here. My podcast is Positive Filter. It's a podcast that focuses on well-being for everybody. I have a variety of guests. I've had Mike on here multiple times. I've had Zachary on here. His episode is dropping soon. And so if you want to be a podcast guest, just hit me up. And there's some things right there. So going next, we got Mike. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, dang. I can't even say the oldest and the coldest because we all old and cold in here. Okay. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Andrews. My podcast moniker is 5 Mics, and that's 5 Mics as in husband, father, educator, writer, MC. I always say the microphone gives me wings, and that's really how I started podcasting, man, because my podcast is the idea of manhood. And this is, we're seeing now how the idea of manhood is being discussed in different forms. And it's a very hot topic now. It's, everyone's talking about toxic masculinity, talking about manhood, what it means, the different spectrums. And this is something that I've had in mind for 10, 12, 13 years. When my son was born, I was looking for outlets to talk to other dads, other men about what the idea of manhood was. And I didn't really have a lot of outlets. And so I created one and started my podcast about 2000, maybe 15. And just talking about the issues that are so important, but that people see now why they're so important. And so any opportunity I have to talk with men about the idea of manhood, interestingly enough, when I talk about the idea of manhood on my podcast, on my Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, it's always women that are inserting themselves into the conversation and trying to define that for us. And that's cool. We need their voice. But now more than ever, we know the importance of us defining that for ourselves. So I'm really glad to be here. Thanks, Phil, for always sharing your platform with us.
I appreciate it. That's great. Let me see if I can do the next one correctly. All right.
All right, cool. First of all, I want to thank Phil for sharing. I am the initiator of the Alpha Psi chapter, University of Washington, University of Oregon, and live in Sacramento, member of the Zeta Beta Lambda chapter. And I've been podcasting since 2018. Back in the early 2000s, I had a entertainment blog that was pretty popular, but I actually got or rededicated my life to Christ. And over time, I still wanted to participate in talking about pop culture and the things that impact our African-American culture in general. And I decided to start Seasoning with Salt, primarily because of the scripture in the Bible, Colossians 4:6, that says that our words should be seasoned with grace and salt so that we know how to answer every man. And I decided that preachers can talk about anything. And because there were a lot of subjects that people were uncomfortable talking about, I decided that I would be that sacrificial lamb, and have been enjoying being able to podcast for the last 3 years, and looking forward to the discussion today.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. And some people don't season their food with enough salt. So I think that's great that you're putting that out there.
So true.
Is Chris on here? Okay, I'll let him get back. There we go.
Oh, going on. I know y'all how I'm about to follow up, Mr. Barry White. Your love, boy.
And Teddy Pendergrass over here. Came on.
I'm giving it. Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Zachary Holston. I'm founder and host of the Chop Up Podcast, keeping it open honest with y'all, Zach. And my podcast is it came, I guess, a result of just me having different conversations with different people I know. I just wanted a platform that I felt that I could share my opinions and my perspectives, and possibly have a voice and cause people to engage in a little bit more thought-provoking dialogue, but also in a way that can occasionally be comical or silly or just, maybe a little bit ignorant. But that's okay. And that's exactly what the podcast is. We talk about a wide variety of topics, a little bit of politics, it will be society, social things, relationship things, anything that kind of piques my interest, and as a man of many interests, anything that crosses my mind, it may come across on the show, and the guests I may have, it's kind of that delicate balance of having more purposeful content that, in a creative fashion, but also just having outlets where I can just kind of let loose and just maybe just kind of take my tie off a little bit, take that alpha tire off a little bit. So, so you can find us on any social media, and I know we plug in at the end. But so that's pretty much a good spiel about my podcast. It's started in a dorm room, I'm now graduated, and it's got a lot to say. So that's pretty much me.
Brother, if I could say something real quick, I know this. I just want to say this real quick because I know StreamYards very well. You got a brother in the back of the stage.
Yeah, I'm gonna let him in. So let me get him in. He texted me real quick, and let me get him on here. Hey, so this is an experiment. This is an experiment and live thing. And so I obviously I just stopped the slide, but I want Sean to introduce himself, and then let Chris introduce himself.
Okay, I'm Sean Clinton. I came through Alpha Phi Alpha spring 1989 at San Francisco State University, the Cold Wave Xi Rho. So I've been in the game a little bit. I know Brother DeMonte very well. We're in the same area. And by the way, I got to get myself. I'm not scared to admit it. I got to get myself back active. Okay, I'm not scared to admit that. I've been out of the game for some personal reasons, things that have happened in my life. But I need to get back in the game and get back into the work of Alpha. So I want to testify to that right now, to a Christian brother like Brother DeMonte. So I just got to keep. I just believe in keeping it. I just believe in keeping it real. I got to keep it real because he knows me. Okay. Well, my journey into podcasting was interesting because I first started YouTubing. So I'm actually well known within the YouTube community. And then from there, I sprung myself into podcasting. I've been podcasting. I didn't take podcasting serious until like the last couple of years. And I'm still trying to refine what I'm doing on my show. It's called Information Man Speaks Podcast. It's an extension of my YouTube channel, but I put different content on there. And just like my YouTube channel and my podcast, I focus on social issues, cultural issues, news, politics. You're going to get a little bit of everything, which is why I call myself Information Man. Prior to going on YouTube and podcasting, I was a fixture in Blog Talk Radio. There are a few people that I know that were radio personalities on internet radio that I was a fixture in expressing my opinions on, and that's kind of what got me into this in the first place. And I just wanted to have a voice to talk about issues that are centered around things that are based on Black people in America and the things that we go through, things that we struggle with, and the things that we have aspiration for. So that's kind of how that's kind of where the areas that I touch on in both podcasts and YouTubing.
I love it. And Chris, I had you on backstage. I'm so glad you could join us.
Yes, sir. She's my starting name.
Let me get this man on here. Thank you, Sean, for bringing that to my attention. But go ahead, Chris, and introduce yourself to everybody.
How are you doing? My name is Brother Chris McMillan. I'm a Fall 19 initiate of Alpha Phi Alpha through the Omicron Alpha Lambda chapter in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I just graduated from college. We didn't have a chapter on campus, so I had to go through after we graduated. But I'm also part of the Flock podcast, which is just a podcast me and three of my friends started when we were in college. But then afterward, we decided to make it official, and we really started putting our stuff out. But it's not anything serious. Usually, in the midst of this pandemic and the social justice movement that we're in the middle of, and the civil rights movement that we're in the middle of, we've had a little bit more serious conversation. But we get on and we talk about stuff that we would talk about in the dorm room. Stuff that had to do with social media. Stuff that was going on with music. We talk about new music that comes out, movies, stuff like that. Any ridiculousness we saw. We talk about, just stuff that regular 23-year-old dudes talk about. I'm on there with actually one of my line brothers, brother Jacoby Freeman is on there with me. And then just two other guys that I became really good friends with while in college.
So I think that was great. Thank you everyone for joining. Everyone that's listening, thank you for all the people joining in. If you want to drop in some questions, throw them in the chat. Hopefully I'll remember to come back to them later. So if you have questions, just throw them in there. And I'll try to come back to it near the end of our show. But, I'm going to start asking some general questions of all these brothers here and then start asking some individual questions. But one of the general questions I always wonder is that when you go and put yourself out there, I know a lot of people had, I guess, kind of like, not say they're gun shy or, they're like really anxious about, wow, like what I'm sharing on this platform, podcasting, it's permanent. I'm going to be sharing it. So did any of you guys have apprehensions or kind of like, like shyness about really actually following through with this platform, with podcasting, which I feel like is a little different than other ways of sharing your voice? And we could, just popcorn or round, whoever feels most comfortable answering that one first.
I can start, I guess. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I can say, speaking from my experience, I started my podcast. We premiered actually on my birthday on March 4th. And it was a slight bit of apprehension. It was an idea I had juggled around for a while and bounced it off a few people. And it took me a while to kind of define, I'm still defining really what it really is supposed to be or how I want it to be. It's working with my creative director. But there was that apprehension of, I live with the people that are probably going to be looking at my podcast, being that I started it, like Mr. Chris here in my dorm room. So, and it was an accurate, assessment. So it kind of really forced me that I really have to be accountable for all the things that I say, and understand, like, I don't say anything on the podcast that I don't feel personally or actually mean, what I'm saying? So that's really, it was a slight apprehension, but, I realized how I want to live the rest of my life is to be open like that.
Yeah, I would say if no one else was jumping in, I mean, I wasn't apprehensive. I don't know. I just felt like, I feel like it's especially for what a podcast is and understanding that, for men, Black men, we have so many different and unique stories and voices and perspectives. And I genuinely feel like our stories aren't told in the way that they should be. You know what I'm saying? I really still to this day feel that. I think that we have a lot to learn. I won't even go there. I was about to go somewhere left, but I'm not. Sticking to your question. No, I wasn't afraid. At JMU where I crossed, I didn't say where I crossed. I Delta chapter spring 95, number 3, James Madison University. I hosted all of the step shows in the 2000s. So every single step show from about 1999 to 2012, I hosted. And that was like my introduction into getting my voice heard in different spaces and just hearing, what people wanted me to talk about and share. And so I think anytime a Black man has an opportunity to share a platform and to speak and to share his story, it's we have to do that.
I love it. And actually, I'm actually start going. So, Sean, you were really involved in the YouTube, and you could have stuck with that. Why did you feel like you needed to pivot and make podcasting separately, or that kind of thing, that different lane?
Well, to be quite honest with you, when you're doing this sort of medium, you want to expand yourself. And then what happened was that I had built my first. I have 2 channels. I had built my first channel up, and it's still growing, and I'm still growing the audience there. And I wanted to use another medium where I could touch on some other issues that I may not touch on the YouTube channel, and sometimes I do vice versa. So I want to expand myself because why? This is the reason why. And I think one of the brothers was hitting on it. As Black men, I believe we need to change the narrative of who we are, what people think we are, because we have mass media, particularly that is changing is trying to define what it is to be a Black male in America. One of the things that's powerful about YouTube for me personally is that the majority of people, young people in particular, they're not watching TV as much. They're 70% on YouTube. So if I can resonate a message that's positively about Black males in particular, as well as Black women, then that message, in my opinion, needs to be expanded as much as possible, because there's not a lot of people out there that are touching on our issues, and we can't expect other people to do it. We got to be the stewards of that. So that's why I started this in the first place, because I wanted to have a voice. I was tired of seeing what I was seeing on the regular alphabet channels. And Black men, we just have to step up, talk out, speak up. And I'm going to just be honest with you, brothers. One of the things about what I do on my platforms, and people may like it or not like it, my motto is telling the truth. I'm going to be honest. I'm not cutting any bones about what is going on. I'll stop right there.
I love it. And so for these young gentlemen right here, obviously you are starting a podcast as you transition, quote unquote, into the real world. And, I want to give you both an opportunity to answer this one. Did you feel like that starting this and finding your voice was kind of also your way of introducing your adult, not say your adultness, you are adults, but just a different opportunity to introduce yourself to the real world? Because both of you guys started it at the tail end of your college journey. So go ahead, Chris and Zach.
You go ahead, Chris.
I'd say yes, in a way. Kind of introducing myself to the world as a free-thinking individual. We share a lot of opinions on a lot of different stuff from the lens of a Black male who is young and who is just graduating from school. It's very specific, the identity that the 4 of us have, even though we're different people and we come from different backgrounds. We see a lot of things either very similarly or very differently, but from a very similar identity. And so kind of in a way I've been using it to introduce myself as a free thinking adult, but also we do hit on a lot of stuff that, there's some stuff on there that I definitely wouldn't want my mother to see.
Right.
That's just being real. There's some stuff, my mom would have logged on and she want to talk about it at the dinner table. I'm going to pack up my stuff and I'm going to roll. So, I don't know. It really depends on the episode.
Wait, hold on.
He said he put the laugh track in there.
Every time.
I'm weak. Hey, first of all, if you got more sounds, go ahead. I get what you're saying. Like it's a different lane. How about you, Zach? Like, do you think because you're transitioning well into professional world and you're starting this? Did you have some apprehension that I have to kind of toe the line? Like, I'm starting my new career. What I say, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what I say is going to be affected, or employer might look at it, or whatever. How you have that thought about it as a new professional and podcaster?
Yeah, I definitely feel a little bit of both of those feelings of like, well, yeah, there's going to be people who are now seeing me in a new light, introducing like my adult self to the world. Oftentimes people, I didn't mention where I crossed and everything, but Spring 18 gave a chapter Live 5. You already know what it is. Third house, you know what I'm saying? I don't got to go into it. It was on the test. Come on now. Anyway, you should have thought
top five. Right.
But no, it definitely, a lot of people only saw me through the suits that I wore or the position that I held, whether on campus or in Alpha, working on the regional staff or on any committees or anything like that. So they often, or people on campus, they may only see me in a certain light, typically in a suit or in class or giving a presentation or something like that. But showing that I'm a multifaceted individual and including my family as well. And I believe that, I didn't want to continue to live, without living a facade, but living a life within these bounds, of course, keeping things respectful as far as my elders, my parents, my mentors, and things. But at the end of the day, this is me, and I have to be my authentic self. It's just something that I'm cultivating and facilitating by myself. So, so if you don't like really what I say or how I say it, then I just would advise, maybe just liking the post, keep it scrolling.
Just keep it scrolling.
And as far as my career, I mean, I work in advertising, which is pretty, it gets pretty ridiculous anyway. Marketing. So I'm getting more accustomed to being myself, showing my tattoos or whatever the case may be. It's not that much of an interest to me.
So, brother Dominique, you have a Christian focused podcast per se. Have you ever had like a pastor listen to it and say, "Hey, yo, what are you talking about?" I don't know anything like that or that nature, or
I would welcome that.
Okay, pastors. Hey, pastors are listening. Listen to his podcast. There you go.
I would welcome that. As you all were talking, especially Brother Clinton and Brother Andrews, I thought about Laura Ingraham when she gave LeBron James some feedback about his participation in politics, and she told him that his role was to shut up and dribble. And I think that sometimes as Black men, like we navigate the world as though we need permission from white people. And then there are other systems of control that we need to check. And one of those systems of control is religion, right? And so sometimes as African American people, we're like, "Ooh, I can't say that in front of pastor, or I can't talk about that." Well, most pastors are talking about it at their kitchen table, just like we're talking about it right now. And so I do think that I take the responsibility of having conversations that aren't necessarily comfortable for Christians, and I welcome the discomfort of preachers and pastors.
I love that. So all of us, I looked at the stats. I didn't know how many Black people are in podcasts, but I know there's over 800,000 podcasts, right? But I'm very sure that the percentage of Black males is probably very low. Do you and anyone can answer this, do you say, okay, you don't want to be tokenized and say, "Oh, my podcast is, a Black podcast," but I'm a Black person, right? And so I'm in that space, but I don't want to be defined as a Black podcast. You get what I'm saying? Like, I want to be viewed as a podcaster in general, but I also want to be viewed as a Black podcaster, if that makes sense. Right. So how do you navigate? How do you guys all navigate sharing that voice, acknowledging both? Like, yes, I am. I'm bringing this voice, this perspective that is very marginalized and not very representative in the large podcast world. But also, I also want to be seen as a skilled messenger of whatever message I'm sharing. That you don't just come to my podcast because you think I'm a Black dude that wants, I have lots of things to share of value. How do you balance that?
Can I touch on that just real quick so everybody can touch on it as well? because on my podcast, and particularly because I touch on issues that everybody can relate to, whether I'm talking about COVID-19 or the situation that's been going on with police, policing issues. And I know that I'm having effect because when I look at my numbers, I'm able to see geographically that I've got people in Europe listening to me, people outside of the States in different parts of the country. And so even though my message may be speaking to Black people, I'm still talking about an issue that other people can relate to that's happening in society. Which is why I talk about different topics, which you can look at my channel and my podcast. There's something for everybody. Some things you're going to like, some things you're going to resonate with. That's how I handle it.
I like that. That makes sense.
I'll jump in if no one else, I'll jump in. I agree with what Sean said. I also feel like we're in such a unique time right now, right? Like the time that we're in right now, I'm going to keep on harping on this, but like the Black experience is being centered at a national level, right? So, you got corporate companies making statements about Black lives. You got the NBA, you got Johnson & Johnson, you got every school district in the country. And so even before this, every story that I tell, like our experience is universal. Even as Black men, our experiences are a part of the fabric of this country. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I feel like maybe in the 90s and even before that, we had to have affinity groups to share our story. So I'm thinking about, in college, we had at JMU, we had Black Student Alliance, right? We had SMO, Student Minority Outreach. We had NAACP, and we would go into these spaces and feel so free to tell our stories, and those spaces are absolutely necessary. I see podcasting as a space to continue to tell those stories, and I think as I get older and more mature in my podcasting, I censor less. So whereas I may say, I may use a Black slang or vernacular, and I'll be like, yo, for white people, that means this. No, I'm not saying that. Like if I say, yo, it's lit, or, what I'm saying, whatever it is. If you want to know what I'm saying, go look it up. Because it's a part of the fabric of this culture, of this world that we live in. So that's how I feel like we just really have to center Black stories and Black male perspectives unapologetically.
There you go. Unapologetically Black.
Unapologetic.
How about for you? I see you nodding your head. Chris, you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big component of our podcast has been preparation. We don't come on because we recognize that there are going to be people who know us who come to our podcast for the quote unquote Black experience. We make sure that we know what we're talking about. If we're talking about politics or history, we make sure we know what we're talking about. If it comes to even stuff on Twitter, like we make sure we do our research so that we're able to articulate ourselves, not only so that we can make our arguments as best as we can, but so that nobody can come back and say, hey, y'all were either A, wrong, or B, misrepresenting yourself. And that's coming from either other Black people or white people, and especially, like I said, we had I think 2 episodes based on all of the social justice that's been going on. And especially in this time, preparation has been especially important because, this is stuff that once you put out, you can't get back. Once you say something, everybody who hears it is going to hear it. And now that's going to be their idea that they got from you. So you want to make sure that that they're interpreting it as concisely as possible. You're trying to make sure you're as accurate as possible. And so it's less censorship, more making sure that we represent ourselves and represent our ideas as perfectly as possible so that when it comes back to us, we're not misconstrued.
Yeah, especially in this cancel culture. You don't get canceled.
I think we're not worried about getting canceled.
So I'm about to say, like, how are you gonna cancel me? I ain't get started yet.
Right.
I still got a ways to go. Cancel myself. Go ahead.
But you know, that issue is serious because we are living in a culture today in which we are being censored. And I would say, especially as a black man, when we have something to say, usually we're looked at as the angry black man, the problem child, versus other people who can speak out and they're seen as courageous, right? Passionate. So we have to keep that in mind. No matter how small, where you start off at, there are people out there who don't want you to have the voice.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, you spoke about that. I think that's one of the most freeing thing about a podcast is that you don't have to wait for a station to elevate yourself, right? It's like I can elevate myself. All I got to do is get my own RSS feed and I'm done. That's it, right? And and really, like, you know, at worst, if you get a sponsor, they could take away your sponsorship. But that was probably one of the things I want to touch upon is that freedom of, and that's why I call it the voices of alpha, but we're all alpha men. But it's like our voice. I think that was one of the most powerful things that I've ever found through podcasting is finding your own voice, and using that voice to influence you in other ways, like with your public speaking or you know your writing. Or I found it that finding my voice in the podcast lane has made me more confident in other things. Has anyone else found that finding your voice, or if you already had a voice, but using the podcast, has that really started to like influence your confidence or your voice outside of the podcasting world? Has anyone found that? And would like to share?
All I can say, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely say that it made me a lot more confident with my words, often because people were challenging me on them or confronting me on, like, what you mean by that? Or like, who are you talking about? And I think it's just being that, like I said, I come through that realization of I just have to be more responsible about things I say, regardless of what it is I say, but responsible of it in the sense that this is how I feel and this is what I'm saying. And if I'm doing it bold enough to put it out there for, you know, potentially the world to hear, then I should also be just as bold in the face-to-face. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people we see with a lot of entertainers, a lot of figures or I guess personalities on different media airways and stuff or wherever tend to hide behind the microphone, hide behind the camera. But once confronted by the people in which you're actually speaking about, then there's a lot of backpedaling. And but I can't do all that. And so if you have to be bold enough to put it out there, you should be bold enough to stand on those actual values that you say that you believe in.
I love it. Has anyone ever had to like verbally defend what they said on an audio podcast out in the real world?
I have personally, but that's just because we have a lot of friends who listen, and you know our podcast isn't super big. We don't have a whole lot of people that follow, and that's not really what we intend to do. You know, we speak so that we can just have a good time, get on, and release it for anybody who's interested in listening. But you know, we've taken very much of a Dave Chappelle approach, where he said, if you find yourself offended, just remember you clicked on my face. You know. Yeah, so it's you came here to hear what we had to say. Yeah. So if you get your feelings hurt or if you disagree, like that's more or less on you.
Yeah. I was about to, and I mean I thought I had a thought, but it was also like in addition to that, you said it. There you go. I remember you said that you don't have a large following. You were going to say it anyway. Is that really a lot of y'all? Is that y'all most of y'all's central focus? Is that I'm putting this out there and it's going to grow organically. I'm not worried about who's following. Or did you actually do feel like you want to get some external validation from this podcasting world?
That's a great question, Phil.
Hey, I got good questions.
Yeah, that's a really go ahead, Dominique. Go ahead, bro. Dominique. Go ahead.
I think initially I was sort of concerned about people's response. And that level of validation. And I think that what that created for me is an inconsistency in my product. Because I would be like, oh, well, you know, only 50 people listen. So, You know, I need to like come harder next time, which means I need to spend more time preparing. As of late, I've just sort of been like, I'm gonna put it out there, and whoever's supposed to get it gets it. Sometimes I like email the link. Sometimes I'll text people. Sometimes I won't. It really just depends. But I really believe in what I'm saying and what I'm talking about, and also believe that. I mean, I'm a preacher, so naturally, I'm not necessarily moved by like the number of people who respond. My hope is that one person that listens is impacted, but that can be that can be difficult because of course you don't make a podcast for one person.
Yeah, right. What's that? That's a voice memo. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's a voice memo you send on your phone. That's like, what is it? Like, I get that. I feel that because I felt that way too. Like you look at numbers and you're chasing it, and then you try to make topics based on other people. And then I realized, and this is just me personally, and is that what I found most helpful about my podcast is that I wanted to just connect with people and have guests that I wanted to talk to. Like that became my central focus. Where I was like, hey man, I met you. Hey brother Holston, you want to be on my show? He said, yeah, okay, that's it, right? That's how I go about it. And it was more like for me, I think my main focus is connecting with other podcasters like this and learning from you guys or learning from other people or learning from my guests. And at bare minimum, this sounds really selfish. I'm going to get the benefit of listening to someone that has really good stories. And I don't care if anyone else listens. I got it enlightened, you know? Right. And hopefully someone else listens and does as well, that one or two people. But I think that's where my lane was, because when I was focusing on the external, I agree with you. I think that my product or my podcast wasn't so organic or free flowing. For me, it felt forced. You know, and it just, I don't know, it did lose authenticity. So I don't know, I found that interesting.
That's super powerful because what Brother Dominique and what you're saying, Phil, is something like when you start a podcast, you have to have intention, right? Like you have to be able to say like who's your audience, you know, like who are you targeting when you speak? And from the beginning, my podcast is just me, right? And I've had my wife on a show. I had like one of my line brothers on my show once. But ultimately, people were telling me from the jump, you know, Mike, you got to have guests. Like you got to have guests. Like that's what's popping in podcasts, right? And something about it, I was like, I don't want to have guests. Like I don't, because what I ended up learning about the platform for me is that if it's helpful for me, then I know that there are a ton of people out there who are going to experience it and feel it, because it became therapy for me. Like my podcast was my therapy, like straight up. It was the only time, and I might have said this to you, Phil, is the only time in my day-to-day experiences where I could talk without being interrupted.
I remember that. And I remember your earlier I remember the shows. I've been with you for years. I remember I used to text you on the side and you were just talking about your experiences. And I did enjoy that. It was like having a conversation. Like you were having a conversation with yourself, but then you were also talking, but you were talking to me too. I was like, this dude talking to me. I was like, I talk crazy. I like that.
Yeah.
So I guess for all of us, and we can all answer this. For me, I'm a big extrovert, surprise, surprise. Has podcasting fulfilled or helped you during this time of COVID? And obviously you can all answer that. Like, I mean, I'm gonna go with a flat out yes, it helped me. But I want to hear from you guys. Did this help you during this time, and how?
Well, I'll speak upon that. And the other question you had, I just wanted to say briefly that if you're getting into this because you want to get all these big numbers, then you're into it for the wrong reason. It's about your voice first. It's about your target audience. And what happens is that your audience will grow organically, okay? And the people that are listening to you are people that are really rocking with what you are doing. Yep. Ultimately, okay? So that's just about. Now, let's not kid ourselves and say that we want to be talking to ourselves only. Because we're doing podcasting because we are trying to share and convey a message to people that we hope resonates with other people. Okay. And and then the question that you have on the table now is that we are living in a time in which we are socially isolated to a certain degree because we can't go out and do the things that we were doing before readily, okay, in terms of socially interaction in environments outside. And so for me personally, it's allowed me to keep some social connections. For example, I've been able to get on the Zoom and have meetings with all my, my old school brothers from Zyro, the undergrads, and talk about fraternity issues within our chapter, alumni issues that's going on in the Bay Area where I lived before. And so it connects me with the brotherhood, and then it connects me with my audience. With me doing YouTubing and podcasting, I'm connecting with audience because you can get feedback from people right then and there. For me personally, it's been working that way for me. So it's been healthy for my mental, and I work in mental health, for my mental health, because we're living in a society right now, gentlemen, where suicidality has gone up due to COVID-19.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyone else? I'm thinking that's deep.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny, Phil, is that I actually stopped podcasting over COVID, and I've created another opportunity for men to come together. If I was thinking, I would have recorded it, but whatever. But back in March, with homeschooling, me being a dad, and figuring things out with my wife, like what we're gonna do with these kids, and I noticed that there was I joined a homeschooling page, right? Like trying to get some feedback and some advice for what I should do as a dad, a parent trying to figure this out. And ultimately it was all women and me. It was all moms and me. And not only that, there were so many times where the woman just tried to like squelch my voice. Like it just like, dad, you know what you're talking about. Get your wife on the page. Like she'll know what to do. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. And so I just started asking around, like, yo, like, you good? Like, what's going on with your kids? Like, how are you figuring this out? So I started a Zoom call every Wednesday with a group of brothers from across the country. We came together, literally just people that I know. And I invited, and we have about anywhere from 10 to 25 men each week. And we just come and talk. And that's our space. And all the men say that this is the only space I have where my wife won't interrupt me, my partner, my kids won't interrupt me, my dog don't come in the room. Like, so, that took the place of my podcast. If I was thinking, I would have recorded it and just be like, yo, I'm gonna record it. Don't worry about it. It's all good. But, it turned out to be way more valuable than that. And it's really become a thing. Like we have a group and we meet, and these are people that didn't know each other before. That 8, 10, 12 weeks into this, I think we've created a friendship group, but that kind of replaced my podcast, for better or for worse.
But you still jumped on mine a couple times, and you still collaborated, so you still connect in that space.
Absolutely.
Right.
What about the young bros? How's podcasting help you during this time?
I'll go ahead. It's been a good time. Because we don't see each other. These are 3 of my best friends from college. We went from seeing each other every day to now we don't really see each other except maybe on the weekends, and now we're in this social distancing. Now we don't see each other at all. I might see one person here or there because 3 of us work in a similar area, but we just don't see each other. Work has become different. So our hours are different. So our group chat isn't always as popping as it used to be.
Wow.
But we schedule out our time. All right, Tuesday at 8:00. Everybody good? Yeah, we're good. All right, we show up, and the first thing everybody says is, "Man, it's good to see y'all," because we're all in one place. We're all uninterrupted, and everybody's smiling. We get to do what we're used to doing, which is talking and not really caring about anything else. We get to have a good time. So that's what podcasting has done for me throughout this social distancing.
What about you, Brother Holston? What about you? How's it helped you during this time?
Yeah, I concur with Brother Chris as well. I feel that the earlier parts of the COVID-19, I was dealing with that. Definitely was an outlet for me to get a lot of information out. It was a point in time, at least for 3-week period, I was putting out an episode a day was called The Daily Do-Rag, and it was like a little series I was doing. Anything, it was an Instagram live, and I mean, anything that was going on, we just kind of talked about in beautifully collegiate, ignorant fashion. You know, as the summer went on, I just kind of started to deal with a lot more things personally, and probably, well, for one of actually things happening or external factors, as well as, you know, just being stuck in the house, you're just alone with your thoughts all the time, and you can only really get them out so much, you know, in the hour and a half or however long you do your podcast. It just provided a way for me to just get my thoughts out there, flesh out my thoughts and my ideas. And I mean, it was a safe space because for one, I was facilitating it, and two, I mean, you ain't coming over here. So towards the latter half, like Brother Mike, I kind of started to take some time off, you know, just to kind of get my mental together, get myself in my spirit in a way where I'll be a little bit more ready to, you know, approach that as an art form, as a craft. So, but I'm getting that wheel turned again. I've started doing some planning and everything, and getting those creative juices flowing. But so it definitely this time in a weird way has benefited me creatively out there.
Well, we got a couple listeners. Hey, if you're listening, if you want to throw some questions in the chat, please, I encourage you to throw some questions. I want to hear from you guys and what y'all want to hear about. Some guy already likes that you have a do-rag show. So there you go. You got some love. Thumbs up right there. But if you got any questions
right now, I just got to a cut recently. I really have one cut this whole year, so it's been bad.
Hey, you was on my plan. Hey, Mike, remember that?
Yo, you was looking wolfy.
I think you saw me. I think everyone saw me during this time. I looked like I was homeless, and people actually would just text me and say, "Are you okay, Philip?" And then, I came back with a haircut. I look like a new person.
I'm starting to get those calls now. I was about to wear the bandana tonight, but I was like, nah, I'm not gonna bandana.
Because, you know, they not really, you know, it's not flooding yet like it used to.
It's not laying down right yet. It's not laying down.
It's just laying. It's just on its way back down. It's gonna be all right. It's
true.
Luckily, I don't have these problems. You know, I've been letting my hair grow for years. So
this is
someone said this waves is popping no matter what. Oh man, we talk about waves. I think that got the conversation. Can anyone ask some questions? People just want to know about do-rag. I mean, hey, I might ask, what's your hair? What's your hair regimen?
Your hair regimen?
What's your hair regimen? Because everyone wants to listen. Jeez.
Drop the product.
Mine is don't brush your hair once a day. I was like, I need to do more. My hair is rough.
You gotta do a little bit more to get there.
Nah, you know me. I don't know. I feel like I'm living. I just want to. I live free, as in I live like I'm like a homeless man that has a home.
You look like you belong on Boy Meets World.
Ask my man Mike. I come in like chats and like people are like, "Yo, who is this? Like, is this dude all right?" Got the low V. I got the low V-neck. I got the low V-neck. All this.
I can't wait. I can't wait for it to get a little bit cooler because from while we were in COVID, from about March to probably about May, I stayed with the Scully on. So I had the Scully rolled up. I had the fisherman beanie. I was chilling. And then it got hot. I was like, I gotta do something. And then so whatever from there. It doesn't even matter at this point.
The winter's the best time to wolf for waves because you can put the Scully on. You can have a do-rag on all the time pretty much. Yeah, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be a problem.
It'll come back. We'll be back.
Spring is gonna be an issue. I'm gonna let you know. It's gonna be a problem.
So I'm about to go on another tangent, but like I'm gonna speak on it in regards to how do you think our year is going to end? Like this, I just said on Facebook earlier that this has probably been the most nutty year of all time. Like legit, like if this was a year, this is the year that pushed. Like this is like Kanye West saying, "I'm gonna let you finish," but this is the most nutty year of all time. Like I've never experienced I'll date myself. 35 years of living on this earth. I've never experienced a year where when you even hear bad news or good news, you're just like, huh, like nothing is like, it's like, I really, really, truly believe that nothing has been shocked. I mean, everything's been shocking, but it's gotten to the point where it's like almost ridiculous, like flat out. And so, you know, some of y'all have, you know, current event podcasts or some of that, but I'm just in general with how you share your voices. How you feel about this year in general?
Well, I had a conversation with a lady friend of mine, and we both kind of agreed in our prediction that 2020 was going to test people. I had this feeling, she had this feeling that something about the year 2020 was not going to be very pretty, and that it was going to catch us by storm. And I still stick to that there's something about, I think everything happens for a reason, and I think Brother DeMonte will appreciate what I'm about to say here. I think God is showing us the signs. God is speaking to us to get ourselves together. This COVID-19 issue, everything that's happening should, in my opinion, should cause you to look at what is really important in your life. By being isolated as we have through this time, for me personally, it's made me realize I can do without certain materialistic things. Matter of fact, I'm saving more money because I'm not going out as much. You know what I'm saying? So it's making me realize I need to get on the phone and call my family. I'm checking on them. I'm Zooming my mom or what have you. It's making you look at your priorities, right, in your own life, because we can all catch this thing. So not to speak in fear terms, but I think everything that happens, I believe, happens for a reason on a spiritual level. And we better heed these signs. I mean, I'm in California. Brother DeMonte can back me up on this. All of a sudden, we got wildfire, which we have fires all the time. Yeah. I'll be honest. But this is bad. You're going outside, the air quality is bad, and all these things are happening around the same time. And then all the goofy stuff that's happening politically in this country.
Goofy. All right? Yeah, that's it. I love the goofy. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I was about to say too, like, and I am going to get political because obviously we're all alpha men in regards to voting. How I don't know. I'm just going on a random tangent. How y'all plan to vote, or how y'all looking at this election? Because obviously, first of all, we vote, right? So what's y'all stance on that? I'll say my 2 cents is I'm going in. I don't know. I feel weird. Like I feel like I had to see my ballot go through the machine. I don't know. That sounds crazy. I know a lot of people are like, no. I told my wife, I was like, I'm wearing a mask. I'm going in line. I'll wait all day. I don't care. I want to see my thing go through the machine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just me.
You know what? I want to hear what I wanted to hear what Brother Dominique had to say about the 2020 question. I feel like you had something bubbling up there. I could see it in your face. Like you was about to go, you was about to preach on the mountaintop.
Yeah, man. If he was about to, yeah.
I felt it. Like, I don't know. I just felt it.
I don't know. I guess I was just going to say too that I think one of the things that 2020 has taught us is that we have to really embrace the new normal. And like, let's say COVID-19 was over and like we just went back to normal. I don't know if I'd ever look at like somebody the same as far as like washing their hands, like, just on the hygiene tip. And so I think that like what it has illuminated for us is like, whether it's COVID-19 or whatever, like just this ability that we have to transfer things in our interactions. And so for me, I'm just more so thinking about, just how we embrace the new normal. My experience is a little bit different from Brother Clinton's in that I probably have spent more money like during COVID, and probably because I'm naturally an introvert. And so I don't like, I've found new things to do and to care about and to purchase. And I think that, what it has illuminated for me is that there are some things that I love that I didn't have time to love before, and trying to be able to make the time to enjoy the things that I would not normally have. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever get a Sunday off again. And so like to be able to wake up on a Sunday morning and like be done watching, YouTube church like at noon, and the world just be at my fingertips is actually pretty amazing. But I think ultimately, we do have to take a critical look at what it is that we're doing in this season and what we can learn about ourselves in order to be better men. And I think that before we really didn't have time to do that, right? We're all in this sort of chasing the dollar, chasing the WAP or whatever. And we did not have time to really think about
wait, what? Wait, did you say chasing the what? I just want to make sure I heard what you said.
Wow. Oh, they said guap or WAP?
I thought I was like,
you said chasing both. Okay.
Can you spell it?
Right, didn't it?
Spell it.
So bad.
Wait a minute.
Brother pastors listen to my podcast is like, I don't know what I might talk about. But
I'm not mad.
Yeah, I get you.
No, I just have to take inventory of who we are and what we care about and what we love. And I think this season has caused us to really prioritize that. And, that's all I was going to say. Sorry, Brother Andrews, I'm sorry that was not the sermon that you were.
I mean,
No,
I know. I totally.
That's the sermon I needed. That's the sermon I needed
because whatever sermon had guap or wop in it was what I needed to hear right now. That joke. Wow.
If we need to have an Alphas After Dark podcast,
we can get y'all on the fly.
It means worship and prayer. I don't know what y'all talking about, man. Get out of here, man.
Exactly.
Right, that's what it meant.
But Phil, I was just kind of combining both of the questions you asked in terms of like voting and like 2020. And I mean, I think that 2020 has been wild, to say the least. That's an understatement. But I think that with all of this time that we've had, I think brother Sean talked about it, Dominique talked about it, like with all the time that we've had the opportunity to really be intentional about how we spend our time. Because I know for me, like, in our house, we're taking social distancing, pretty seriously. I have a 9th grader and a 3rd grader, and, my wife is here, and, it started off, it was all cute, like, oh, okay, we're gonna make this work, and then we've gone through these cycles in our home of like, yo, like, this is it, like, this is like, we're here, like, we're here forever, like, it just feels very permanent. And so I've decided to put a lot of my time in creative spaces. So whether it's spaces like this that you created, Phil, whether it's writing, I've been writing more, the men's group that I talked about, and just most recently, I'm like, look, we're all about to die of COVID anyway, and I'm being facetious, but like, COVID is here, it's on our back, and I just bought a skateboard, yo. I'm 40. And I want to be very, very clear. I'm 43 years old. I want you to know I look young, but I'm 43 years old. I grew up skateboarding, was a passion for me. It gave me a lot of joy in my young adult years, and I just bought a skateboard because I'm like, yo, we're in the house, like we have we're here. So to me, the skateboarding is one thing, but it represents something of like a rebirth. Like we have an opportunity to reinvest in the things that really bring us joy. You know what I'm saying? Like the things that, like, when you think back of what you did when you were a kid, when you were a teenager, when you were a young adult, like what are those things? And I'm going to reinvest in those things because what? Like, what you gonna laugh at me? Like 170,000 people died of COVID. So if you're gonna laugh at me because I try to ollie and break my thumb, I'll be all right. Like we're gonna do this. Like I'm good. So I think it's just, I think it's more. It's not about the skateboarding and just. It's about a mentality of just renewal. Like we're in the house.
It's kind of one of those things like, what you got to lose?
Yeah, we're in the house. Like there's literally nothing we have to lose but our life. Like, and that's real. So it's like, if we're doing things that we love and we're safe, do it. Like, why don't let fear hold us back? Oh, everybody's like, you're gonna hurt yourself, you're gonna break your back. Oh, I'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? So
I said I've also found a lot of joy not only in doing things for myself and finding new things to love to do, but also watching people that I care about find things that they love to do and supporting them in the things that they love to do. A lot of people are starting small businesses. A lot of people are doing like hobby pages on social media and stuff, and just seeing, right now, because everything is so slowed down, you see what everybody is doing in their home. You see what everybody's doing in their free time, or quote unquote free time.
Yeah. Hey, ain't got no. What's that?
It's really interesting. There's a lot of people who do things that I was like, whoa, when did you learn how to do this, or how long you've been doing that? and they love it, or they've loved it for a long time, or they're just starting to love it. And it's interesting watching everybody's passion come to the light.
Oh, I like that. You said to the light too. Look at that. You're good with words. I see you.
Sprung it out on top.
No, so obviously I think we're gonna wind down, but I want to do something where I want everyone to, as we wind down for the show, I want everyone to take a full time to do your plugs. What are you working on? Things that you want to share, and we'll go kind of around it. But I also want you to think of final thoughts, and whatever final thought is, let's say you this is your last, you had an audio recording, a speech, and this is it. What would be something you would want to share with the listeners, a life lesson, for everyone that just you really want to solidify with the listeners, and we'll go around, and then also share and plug yourself at the same time. So kind of your big grand message for everybody, your closing message, and then your plug for yourself. Let's go. I'm gonna go around what I see in my circle, but let's go. Let's go with Dominique, unless you want to think about it. Do you want to think about it first a little bit? You seem like you want to think about it.
Sure.
Okay, I'll go with my life lesson. I'll just say it myself. All right, so what I would say is I think one of the best things that I've learned during COVID, and just kind of closing out before I plug my own stuff, is that it's similar to what a lot of people said about reprioritization, what's really important. And I felt like usually during the most terrible times, it's been for me, my true people filter. And what I mean by that is usually during the most adverse times, terrible times, the people that really mean something or try to bubble to the top, and they reach out, or they connect with you, or they pop up out of nowhere. I would say the silver lining about COVID is I've gotten reconnected with people out of nowhere that I have not connected with in over 10 years. I don't know why. It's also me. I reached out. I did this one thing where I was listening to this networking thing, and it was do this random game where you just scroll to you literally contact roulette and just scroll and then text someone randomly. And the funny thing about COVID is when you do that, no one finds that's awkward. No one, hey, how you doing? Oh my gosh, I'm good. I'm stuck in that. No one, you could do text roulette right now, and no one will think you're weird, because everyone is yearning, as you say, for social connection. So I think one of the blessings of this time is reconnecting, doing this, the group me that I have, seeing other podcasters, seeing you, Chris, start your podcast. That was one of the things you touched upon. I love that you're doing that. And I follow on and fanboy and check out the lesson. Zach, I love your Chop Up Color Crisis series. And it was I get to see people and connect with people in a virtual space. And I don't wish this. I wish we could have done this naturally without a national global pandemic forcing us to do this. But if anything, I know that I'm going to come out of it stronger. And as you say, Mike, with your group, I've made some new relationships, some really firm ones out of this. So that's my last message. I will plug myself as Positive Filter on everything. This episode will be on YouTube, and it's going to be recorded and posted on Wednesday. So that's it. That was mine. I plugged myself. Shout out to me. All right, Dominique, now you ready? After I did my tangent.
I'm ready. Yeah. You can find me on SWS Podcasts on pretty much every platform. I've also just recently began a travel influencer platform. So you can go to thetravelwo.com or thetravelwo on pretty much every platform. I think one of the things that I have learned, certainly in this season, is that you are the sum total of whatever you're not afraid of. And for me, I have realized that I have evolved into a new person because I have recognized that there was a lot of things that I was afraid of that was holding me back. And I think that eventually we'll have to be accountable to what we are afraid of, because those are the things that bar us from our purpose and what we are called to do on this earth. And I think this is the perfect time to face that fear and to not be, continue, if you will, to be a victim to what you are scared of. And a lot of times what we are scared of is the criticism or the response of others, right? What will other people think? How will they receive me? I often remind people that Jesus said himself that when he went back into his own hometown, people were not able to really understand or welcome him. And if Jesus himself could not get, after performing miracles, could not get people to respect him because of his gifting, how different are we? And so we have to get beyond wanting the validation of others in order to feel like we can do what we are called to do, and we have to walk completely in it. So when it's in your heart, when it's on your mind, you just have to get up and do it, and you have to leave the numbers and the responses. You have to leave that to God.
Sheesh. Oh, he was right there. You go. You just need that moment because you just preached right there. Oh man, that was really inspiring. I believe.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. All right, Mike, you gotta follow up on that, yo.
Man,
Yes. So obviously your message and the plugs.
Powerful. My message is, my podcast is the Idea of Manhood, right? I have a website, ideamanhood.com. And on that website, in every facet of my life, I feel like there has to be some alignment. And so I'm using this time. I am intentional, and I am being very proactive about making sure and ensuring that Black men's voices are humanized in a way that other voices are humanized. And that with that, we as Black men acknowledge our power, acknowledge our privilege, and we are still allowed to be sensitive, allowed to be passionate, allowed to cry, allowed to be fearful, and also allowed to be proud, and allowed to be loving, and allowed to be role models. And I think that I'm an educator, and I feel that the Black man's voice in education is the voice that is missing, and is a lot of the reasons why there's so much upheaval in our education systems and in all of the systems that we are involved in. I think many times, so many of our family structures, our school structures, our job structures, and all of the institutions that we are a part of are not fulfilled because we don't share our voice. And so I want to implore all men, Black men, to sensibly, pridefully, and powerfully share your voices in the spaces where it's needed. And that's it. That's my platform. Like I said, ideamanhood.com. You can find my blog, and I have a bunch of other initiatives. I have an initiative called Post Your Failures. I have a manhood blog. I have a few articles that I've written over the past since COVID has started. And I'm thankful to be here. If you search Idea Manhood Podcast, you'll find me everywhere: Stitcher, Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all that stuff. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate this, man.
And for the people that want to get involved, how would the Zoom, if they want a voice, how would they get involved with the Zoom?
I have a group on Facebook. The group on Facebook is called Men in the Time of COVID. And if you this chat room that's here that we have on Facebook, if you just write your name in there, I could send you an invite and invite you to the Facebook group. And then once you're a part of the Facebook group, I send the link to the Zoom every week.
A secure link.
A secure link to the Zoom every week, and you could join. And like I said, there's no strangers. Everybody comes in, and we just, you walk into a room full of friends. So thanks, Phil, for this. I appreciate this, man.
All right. And that's you dropping gems like always. Chris, what's up, man?
So you can find the Flock Pack podcast on Instagram on _Flock podcast. We're also on Twitter at _Flock pod. And then what I want to leave on is two things. One, right now we touched a little bit on mental health a little bit earlier. If somebody reaches out to you, man, you got to be honest with them, and you got to be honest with yourself, because saying that everything's okay when everything's not okay doesn't help. It doesn't help. Hiding doesn't help. I know right now, especially as Black men, we feel like we have to be the brick and mortar. We have to be strong. We have to puff our chest out. But man, that only makes things more difficult. It complicates things. So if somebody reaches out, if you're not going to be honest with them, at least be honest with yourself. Have that conversation with yourself. And then second, I had it in my head 1 second. Well, I'm gonna leave it at that then.
No, I love it. But that's actually good too, because obviously we need to speak upon that. But obviously, as all Black men, we all have that initiative. That mental health is a key component. Taking space, taking step backs to take steps forward, but no backward steps. Right? I don't know, whatever. But the point is that sometimes a lot of this stress is gonna, you need to be honest with yourself. And I think a lot of this time has exacerbated stress. And I think what you talked about and brought up too is that this time too has been extremely stressful on Black men, especially in the news and what we see in regards to those things. So I think that your message about mental health and checking yourself is of utmost important right now, because we are being bombarded with negative imagery, and our well-being is being tested. And so I tell a lot of people, just as much as you protect your home, protect your joy and protect your peace. And part of protecting your peace is that mental health awareness. And when you need to seek help, there's no weakness about that. It's actually, I like to tell people it's courageous. You're taking a lot of courage to own up that you need some help. So your message is very powerful and well needed. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Sean, what's up, man?
Well, I would like to say that this particular time that we live in has allowed me to reevaluate my purpose in life. I have a daughter. She's here with me today. So it's, like I said before, it's allowed me to see what's most important in life. My purpose, my goals. It's allowed me to reprioritize what is most important in my life and to not take anything for granted. Like before we went through this fire situation a week or so ago, I took a nice walk in the park near where I live, and just something is as pleasant as taking a walk and breathing the air and looking at blue sky when we did have some blue skies out here. I think sometimes we take for granted the sort of beauty and that God has provided us. And so it's made me look at what's important. And as I said earlier, the materialistic stuff is not as important to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm learning that I can live without certain things and just look at what is the basics that brings you joy in life and connecting with people. Once again, my podcast is Information Man Speaks. I'm pretty much on everything but growing. The Google Podcast, the Spotify, SoundCloud, and there's more that I'm going to be being a part of. Tune in, all of it. My YouTube channel is Information Man Show. And I usually go live on that program, usually on the weekends. I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to give everybody a warning. I don't cut any bones. I don't cut. I'm going to tell it just like it is. The people that follow me, they know how I am. I cut no bones. I'm going to talk about hard-hitting issues, but primarily that channel, to be honest with you, is more of an interview channel. So I may do not as much. I may not do as many interviews on my podcast, but on the YouTube I do. And so I know, for example, I think Zach, I'm going to be getting him on the program. Me and you, Phil, are overdue for being on the program. I like to get Chris on the program. I got to get Brother DeMonte on the program. I definitely got to get the brother here, Mike, on the program for what he's doing. And primarily what I do when I do that is that I believe in connecting with other Black people that are doing positive things and resonating positive energy to help also get them out there where people know who they are and that are interested in what they do and can connect with them. Okay. So that's why each one of you, all of you brothers on here, bring a different set of skills that falls right into information, because information is power. We need that, right? So I would definitely love to. I'm going to try to get all of you on at one point in time. And I want to say that these mediums are very important. I'm going to keep using them until somebody cuts them off permanently and say they no longer exist. They no longer exist. They no longer exist. They're gone. It's been taken over by the government or something, right? So I'm gonna keep pushing the envelope and deal with issues that people don't sometimes want to talk about. Okay. Now I do have for brother Mike, I do have times where I have panels on my program where I bring brothers on and we talk about a variety of issues, relationships, how black men can build themselves up in their career, all those different things. So I like to bring everything to the table. So I really appreciate you putting this together, brother. Now you said you're gonna record this and put this over to your podcast.
Yeah, it's gonna be on Wednesday. Yep.
Now you do know that StreamYards automatically allows you to record it and to show the video. So when you end this, all you have to do is go into all you gotta do is click into the past episode where it says past episode, click it, and it'll allow you to port over the actual audio or video at your own convenience, just as a reminder.
Yeah, so, and I definitely will do that, because I definitely did that one time when I got the account. So I'll make sure to share with all you guys as well for sound bites and share that information with everybody so they can have it.
Right. And I like what Brother Mike was saying. I'm working on a blog as well. And I'm also, good things are happening for me too, because I've been grinding for quite some time. I'm getting people that are emailing me who are saying that what I do fits with what their brand is, and these are black businesses that would possibly like me to market and promote their particular brands that coincide with what I do on my show. So when you keep doing what you're doing, brothers, God blesses you with things that you may not even expect to come down the pipeline, if that's, so I think it's very important for us to have a voice. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the laugh track, because that actually put me over the edge. We get that. Like, I need to get one of those. We just randomly throw that in there for no reason. I love laugh tracks. I love sound bites. All right, Zachary, take us home, please.
Great. So yeah, man. Once again, my name is Zachary Holston, host of the Chop Up Podcast. You can find us on all platforms at the Chop Up Pod. Just look at, I hope it's right here and like how y'all see it. But yeah, the Chop Up Pod. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're on all that. But yeah, I guess my little tidbit to leaving with other people was something I had thought about today while I was doing like my agenda journaling and stuff. And I said to myself, I can't afford to live my life as somebody that I'm not. I can't afford to build my career on somebody I'm not like. And my meaning is behind that, something I guess I gained through this experience in the quarantine or inside. And I think a good amount of my life, I was very much anxious and concerned about always kind of saying the right things, or, being as polished as possible, being as professional as possible. And while that gained me a lot of, traction and alpha, of course, because, the bouginess is often rewarded. You know what I'm saying? The more elite you can appear, the more you can seem like you're not just a college kid eating noodles in your dorm room. It's more than like you. So, but I think just exposing, the fact that you're a multifaceted person, that you're multidimensional, we're complex beings. We're not we're not monoliths as people, as Black people. We're not monoliths in our own thought and singular in our thinking. So I guess throughout this whole thing, I guess that would be one tidbit, and just being more committed to objectivity, being more committed to having impartiality in the way in which I think and approach things, trying to not let my own biases cloud my judgment of other people. And I think my commitment to that impartiality is also a commitment to understanding. And I think a commitment to understanding is a commitment to wisdom that I'm trying to gain and acquire. You got to come crazy when all type of bishops and pastors and inquire on radio all on the cover. I'm grateful for, I'm actually grateful for all the experiences I've had throughout this time, throughout my life, and how able to, have a platform, even though it's, at my level, and it's building, it's growing organically. And I'm just excited to, roll some more content out there. I'm excited to collab with brothers like this, with people like this. And I'm just super excited for the future of not only myself, but all of the others as well. So yeah, man, Chop Up Pod on all social media platforms. Come check out our content. And yes, thank you. Thank you.
Well, this was a great collab. Shout out to myself for organizing this. I'm just joking. Okay, but honestly, I think one of the blessings of this podcasting for real was the opportunity to meet each. Well, I met most of you guys in person, my Virginia brothers right here. But the fact that it's connected me with some West Coast brothers that I wouldn't have had this opportunity if it wasn't for podcasting. So I'm very grateful for that being the unexpected. So that doesn't sound, but that show got me weak, these sound bites. But the fact is that I'm glad that we can do this, and I see some comments. Maybe we can do this again. I would like to. I maybe have a different structure. This is a learning experience for me, having multiple people at the same time. But I think that one of the things I learned that we all bring unique experiences and different voices, and that's why I wanted to call it this. And I think that all our voices, different ages, different, certain beliefs, is that regardless of that, we have a powerful message, and the thing that unites us, one, being alphas, but two, our existence as Black men in this space. And I think it's just very important. And I think that regardless of the numbers and all that stuff, I charge everyone to continue and keep podcasting and keep sharing your ideas, because unbeknownst to you, you never know who's listening and wants to connect with you, like me connecting with you guys. And I don't know, that was just kind of my spiel. So please, if you stuck with us or you listen to this whole thing later or whatever, I'm gonna put all their information in the show notes, try to be just as organized as I can so you can follow with all these brothers and their platforms. They all have something special to share and say. And I just want to say thank you to anyone that listened, anyone that watched. And also I want to say thank you to each one of you guys for joining me and just putting up with this and all the little kinks that I had at the beginning, but just taking your time. I know this was a time out of your night that you could have been doing something else and you spent it doing this. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm just very grateful. So thank you very much.
Well, I think everybody deserves a clap.
Hey, yo, is there a real board? Do you have a real board with all the sounds on there?
Information is power.
Yeah, man, I got the whole setup, man.
I need one of those. You have to show me the board setup, because I'm gonna literally just put what's it called? The John Blaze fire emoji. Do you have that one on there? The fire bombs, the bomb.
I got thunder. I got all that kind of stuff.
Oh, you got the flex bombs? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well,
yeah. You get yourself set up with something. Now I got the Rodecaster, which is the greatest thing for podcasting, because that allows you to put the special effects. But I have a computer over here that I have connected to the Rodecaster, which allows me to loop in the sound effects. So I'm getting sound effects out of this and out of the computer. And then what's great about the Rodecaster, I'm probably telling you guys things you already know.
Nope.
The great thing about the Rodecaster is that you can actually bring in your phone interviews with people or computer interviews like this right into the Rodecaster. I could literally record this whole thing off my Rodecaster, the whole conversation that's been happening into the Rodecaster, because it also allows you to record. So you could take this on the move, interview somebody, right? Plug it up, and then put the little disc, little thing in there, and record your podcast out there and about in the community. And then also do it through the phone, Skype, the whole thing, the whole damn thing.
Oh, man,
we need to have some protocol on that.
We're gonna cut the show. We're gonna have to talk about this offline.
Okay. Yeah, you gotta show me this.
You might have to do like a little seminar for us. We might have to have a Zoom, just straight up Zoom seminar with you teaching us some of these behind the scenes.
I have no problems, brothers. And I gotta be honest with you too, all of you on here. If you have not considered, I think you have one, Phil. You need to really port this is my opinion, not telling you what to do. You really should port your podcast into a YouTube type of platform. Now, there's some people, as you already know, who they may not want to be on camera, but they'll do a off-camera podcast where you just got an image on the screen and then you've got the little wiggly lines or what have you. Or I do on screen because I have a second channel, which is I podcast on my second channel, which is Information Man Speak, but I put different content on there, interchangeable. And the reason why I'm saying this to you, gentlemen, because the majority of people are on YouTube, and you bring in a whole different audience of people who just like to use YouTube. So you got your podcasting audience and you got your YouTube audience who may not want to listen to you on those traditional platforms, but they like YouTube for whatever the reasons. That's why I was saying earlier, it is good to try to expand yourself as you grow what you're doing, because you get more people who are like, wow. And then what's great is that I've had people email me and that I didn't know that I was having an impact on their life in a positive manner. You'd be surprised. You'll be surprised who is listening to you, man. You'll really be surprised.
Well, we're going to have to take that. We're going to definitely have to check it out. And I think one of the things I would like to do with our group me that we already have, or groups that we have, that if you're an alpha, and you're an alpha that podcast, hit me up. I'll add you into the group. But we're definitely going to have to do a chop up and share some ideas, because you got some great ideas to help us all elevate. So I want to say thank you to everyone that's listening to this. As you said, you can follow up. I'll have everything in the show notes of this on YouTube, and throw some links on the Facebook later for the people that stuck with it, so they can come through and follow up with all these people. I had the links on the thing, but I got kind of sucked into the conversation. I wasn't throwing links in the chat like I wanted to, but I'll make sure to put that all in the show notes so you can follow up. Thank you so much for listening, and we're out.
All right. Peace out.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Peace.
Oh, man. Come on.
None copy